There's always a lot to keep track of in the Yu-Gi-Oh scene as a competitive player, so in this video I'll be going over everything you need to know about the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh scene for this upcoming month in 2026. I'll be talking about everything from relevant new releases to key events that are taking place throughout the month, and explaining whether each thing is relevant to you as a competitive player. So without any further ado, let's hop straight into it. At the start of August, we're getting the new Legendary Arc 5 decks, and basically this is a structure deck that has new support for Odd Eyes, Lunalight, and Speedroids, while reprinting some of the key cards for each of those decks. I think in a competitive sense, there are going to be some relevant reprints to you as a competitive player, so things like the Charmies are always nice to have. I think Fua is still maybe a couple of dollars, so it should be a lot easier to get that now if you haven't already. There's cards like the Thrust and Talents as well that may have also been harder to get before, but those should be all very accessible now. I think this product's relevance to you as a competitive player is going to be on the lower side. I don't think any of these decks are particularly going to be meta relevant, except maybe Lunalight. Lunalight does get a new extender that is pretty solid, but I think the Lunalight deck was already struggling beforehand. Since everyone was already playing cards like Kaiju in the side deck, the deck has already fallen off quite a bit, and I don't think this new support is enough to really push Lunalight back into being tier 1. That being said though, I guess if you do play against Lunalight in the future at an event, then do know that they do have access to these new cards. For the other two decks, I don't think they're very relevant. Maybe like the Odd Eyes Link monster can be used in a deck like Power Patron, but even then, I don't think that significantly changes how good Power Patron is as a deck, and it definitely isn't good enough to bring a deck like Odd Eyes into the metagame. And for Speedroid, similar idea. I think the deck's probably okay as a rogue deck, but not much more than that. So overall, this product, unless you're looking for very specific reprints, is not going to be really relevant to you as a competitive player. The next thing that's happening in August is going to be YCS Montreal. This is the only relevant major competitive TCG event that we have this month, out of like YCS's national level events, things like that. Yes, I know the World Championship is also in this month, but I don't personally think that's super relevant to you competitively, and I'll explain a little bit more about that when I talk about that event. But I think you as a competitive player should be keeping a close eye on YCS Montreal specifically, because there is going to be the potential for new meta development. So we're probably going to see a meta shift where like some decks become more popular, some decks become less popular. New tech choices that come out, people like slowly have developed as the format has slowly developed even more. Since we have already had a couple events in this current format with the current card pool and ban list, I don't think there's going to be anything super like earth shattering that we're going to see at this event. But I think it's still good to keep up with it, so you generally have an idea of what people are going to be bringing to these big events. So if you do end up going to an event like a regionals or something, it can help you with your preparation there. So overall, I think that even if you aren't playing this event, YCS Montreal is going to have a lot of competitive relevance because it is going to give you more information on the overall metagame as a whole. If you guys are enjoying this style of video so far, then all I ask is that you consider subscribing to the channel. Only a very small percentage of my viewers are currently subscribed, and by subscribing, you let YouTube know that you enjoy this content, and you also let me know if you want to see more of this in the future. This is my first time doing a style of video like this, so if you find this information helpful, I'd be happy to do one at the start of every month so you're up to date. The next event that's going to take place after YCS Montreal is going to be the World Championships, and like I mentioned in YCS Montreal, I personally don't think this is an event that's particularly relevant to competitive TCG players. The reason for that is the Worlds format is completely unique and different from what we're currently playing in the TCG. For those of you who don't know, Worlds has its own separate ban list and card pool. So for example, cards like TCG exclusives are not available to be played at Worlds, so that may affect the metagame a little bit. Also, most importantly, the ban lists are sort of merged with the OCGs, so the card pool is almost completely different from the TCG. It's still worth keeping an eye on if you're interested in getting better as a competitive player, because the caliber of players there are obviously the best in the world, and watching them play the game at a higher level can help you improve as a competitive player. But I would take like the results you see at Worlds with a grain of salt. Those results may not necessarily transfer over to the TCG because once again they are using a different card pool and a ban list. I think that the results of the World Championship will likely be one of the most influential factors for our upcoming ban list that we're presumably getting in a couple of weeks or so. I think the decks that end up doing well at Worlds are probably going to be targeted on the ban list in some way. It isn't guaranteed to happen, but historically, decks that have done well at the World Championship have generally been targeted on the next list right after. So I think keeping up with like the results of Worlds at the very least, even if you don't watch it, can give you sort of an early indicator as to what may potentially get hit on these upcoming ban lists. So overall, I think that the relevance to you as a competitive player is on the low and medium end. Like, yes, you can watch it to improve yourself as a player, but I don't really think the results are going to be super relevant to you unless they directly influence the ban list. One of the only other product drops that we're getting this month is going to be the Limited World Championship Pack. So for those of you who didn't see the one in 2025, these limited packs are basically like a super small set focusing on the relevant cards from the best decks in the 2025 to 2026 year. So last year, for example, they reprinted like the Snake Eyes cards. I think there were Ubel cards in there as well, Atlantean, stuff like that, because those decks were the most popular in 2024 to 2025. At the time of recording, I don't know what cards are going to be in this set specifically, but I think there's some good potential for some relevant competitive reprints. I'm not sure how good they'll make the reprints. Like, for example, thinking of the decks that have been good in from like 2025 to 2026, I think the only cards that are still super expensive, at least off the top of my head, are going to be cards like Fallen of White. I'm not sure if they're going to reprint that in this pack. I can see a card like maybe like Dark Magician of Destruction being reprinted as well, because that has been used in like a lot of the Azamina piles. It's really hard to speculate as to what could be in this pack, because it really does depend on what they consider to be the most popular decks. And also, even if they pick a deck that does require like cards to be reprinted, they may not reprint the super hard to get cards. So overall, I'd say the relevance of this pack to you as a competitive player is at the moment unknown. Until we see more confirmation as to like what's being reprinted, I can't really say like how relevant it is to you as a player. We could be getting some really nice reprints, or we could be getting reprints that don't really matter at all because those cards are already pretty cheap. It's also not going to be introducing any new support or for any of the competitive decks, so it shouldn't change the metagame at all. It should just make some cards easier to get. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is a potential ban list that we're getting. Obviously, this is all speculation, but I think the general consensus is that there is going to be a ban list somewhat soon after Worlds that's going to be influenced by results from events like YCS Montreal and of course the World Championships. Obviously the ban list is probably going to be the most relevant thing to you as a competitive player if we do actually get one. So again, like I said in the World section, keep an eye out for what does well at events like YCS Montreal and Worlds, even if you aren't playing at them because it might give you an inkling as to what could potentially be hit on this upcoming ban list. I'll be doing a more in-depth ban list discussion video later on, so do stay tuned for that if you're interested in it. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you guys thought about in the comment section below. This is different than anything I've done before. If you guys found this useful and would like to see it for any future months, I'd be happy to do a video like this at the start of every month, just to give you guys a better idea of what to expect as a competitive player. I will say in terms of competitive relevance, August is one of the quieter months. We are not getting any super relevant set releases, but in a month like September, October, November, there's definitely going to be a lot of news that's definitely going to be relevant to you as a competitive player. Before I end off the video, I just want to give a quick shout out to Card Trader. They're an online marketplace where you can buy and sell cards, and if you use my link in the description below and use code tcgsam for 5% off your entire order, you can help support the channel while getting a nice discount. So with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys at the next one.